Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
the East Coast to the West Coast and around the world on the Internet. We're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460. This is the Conservative Commandos radio show with your host, Rick Trader. The Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard. You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Welcome, fellow patriots, and welcome once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. I'm Rick Trader, and I'm coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia and around the world on the Internet via our new Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining me today, as he usually does on Tuesday afternoons, but yes, I know it's Thursday, but every now and then we got to change things up to continue to keep it interesting. Joining me as my co-host is Sam Rohrer. Sam, welcome to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show.
Hey, Rick, it's good to be with you. Thursdays are probably not as good as Tuesdays, but what's the difference, Rick? You know, it's all 5 days in a week, but it's great to be back with you today, and thanks for handling everything on Tuesday so fantastically.
You bet. And Sam, we got another great show lined up for our listeners today. Why don't we run down our guests?
Be glad to do that. We will have 3 guests as normal. 3:30 guests will be a new guest to the Conservative Commander Radio Show, Sheriff Richard Mack. Now, some folks may know him or they may not, but Richard has been in the news relative to the circumstance out in Nevada with the Bureau of Land Management and the circumstances there, the showdown. But he also travels the country lifting up the issue of the role of the sheriff, of the local sheriff, and its constitutional role. So we're going to talk to him about the issue out there and about what he's doing overall. That'll be at 3:30. At 4:05, we are going to talk with Hans von Spakovsky, an authority on a number of issues, but he's a senior legal fellow with the Heritage Foundation. And we're going to be talking with him specifically about the significance of the Supreme Court ruling just handed down that upheld Michigan's right through constitutional amendment to direct affirmative action, or basically to limit affirmative action when it comes to education and hiring and so forth. So that was a big issue. A lot of implications. We'll talk with him at 4:05, and then at 4:35 we're going to round out today. Our guest will be Peter Ferrara. He's with the Carlson Center, and we are going to be talking with him about a lawsuit that has been filed by Representatives Trent Franks and Senator Ron Johnson, challenging the actions of the Obama administration to really effectively make law as it would affect Obamacare through executive order. And so we're going to talk about the significance of that and whether or not that has any likelihood of actually doing anything, or whether, in fact, there ought to be something else perhaps that's done in addition to that or in place of that. We're going to round that out at 4:35. So 3 good guests, 3 big issues that are very current and very significant for a lot of things, Rick. So we'll look forward to those things.
Indeed, we got a great show. And, Sam, it's very interesting that we're going to have Peter Ferrara talking about Obama rewriting the laws. Maybe you have seen recently that Obama is going to pardon hundreds, if not thousands, of convicted felons. And why is that? Well, because I guess, once again, Barack Obama doesn't agree with the Constitution. He does not believe in the laws that our courts and our lawmakers have set. Instead, it's what Barack Obama wants, Barack Obama does. So he's about to pardon thousands of convicted felons.
Well, Rick, we will pick up on a little bit of that when we talk with Peter in the last half hour of the program. But that is something that is worth noting, because what you described, Rick, of basically this current administration in particular, in a very arrogant fashion, actually putting themselves above the law and holding a total disdain for the constraint of the Constitution and effectively making law by themselves, that, Rick, that is, by definition, tyranny.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of folks don't understand. We sometimes throw that word around and we say, it sounds like a tyrant. Well, tyranny simply means a person who puts themselves above the law. And a constitutional republic, as we have, is a form of government that's limited by a constitution and therefore constrained by a constitution, and those who take their oath of office, all of those in office, they basically say, I will subjugate myself to the superior law, the Constitution. But here we have lots of people who have taken the oath, Rick, but they disregard it. They therefore violate their oath, which ought to have some accountability and discipline come with it. We'll talk a bit about Peter today and whether or not a lawsuit, in fact, has been filed to challenge the administration, the president, for doing what they're doing, whether or not, in fact, that's sufficient. I don't think it is. But nonetheless, that's what all of this comes about. But that is the definition of tyranny. And it's a big issue, and, that really is, to me, at the heart of really most everything we're dealing with. Does Congress have the right to do what they're doing relative to Obamacare? Should have they passed it in the first place? The president changes it at will, but should Congress even have passed it? What about the Supreme Court when they ruled on that matter when it came before them? Did they break their constitutional oath by doing so? This is a big issue, and it's worthy of a lot of discussion.
All right. Sounds like it. And Sam Rohr, what else is on your radar screen this week, my friend?
Well, you know what? I can't get off of this here right off. We ought to look a little bit at what's happening in Ukraine. We talked about it 2 weeks ago when we were on, actually a week ago, and big things were taking place. I just note this in an overall perspective. What we've been saying here, and have had guests on and talked about it, is happening as we speak. Russia clearly wants Ukraine. The West wants Ukraine. They want them for different reasons, but they both want them. Russia has its troops on the border. We threatened with sanctions against staff members on Putin's staff. I don't hardly think it's of the same consequence, Rick Crater, but nonetheless, that's what we're fighting with, although now paratroopers have been sent on the ground, and they are in the Baltic states. Some have said that really the best deterrent for Russia actually making a move against Ukraine is putting some U.S. troops on the ground, because up to this point during the Cold War, Russia has refused to fire on an American citizen, and so have U.S. citizens, soldiers, refused to fire on Russians. So up to this point, there's been we won't quite go past that mark. And so part of the reason for sending troops there is to demonstrate to Ukraine that we're supporting them a little bit and putting them around the border. But part of it is this hope that Russia won't pull the first trigger. So you've got those things sitting there, and I find it interesting that Russia, the bottom line, Russia warns, if you do anything more to us, there will be severe consequences. The U.S. threatens that if you don't stop doing what you're doing, we're going to put more isolated sanctions on you, basically staff members, that we're going to prevent them from having access to bank accounts. And then the International Monetary Fund, who is the funder on the Western side, is now promising $18 billion. So you've got people who are promising, threatening, or other things, but the eyes are on what's happening there. But I tell you what, I will finish with this. I am very glad to see that the temporary president of Ukraine is in fact saying, you will not take our country, we will fight back, and they have been exerting pressure against some of the Russian terrorist types, and they have had, in fact, some success at doing that. So all eyes are there, and they will be for some time, I think, as I don't expect to see Russia back down, and I don't think that we will totally either, but I think that Putin will be more aggressive than we are at this point.
Well, I don't know what you're talking about, Sam Rohr. I think Barack Obama is showing plenty of muscle in this. After all, just this week, he sent 150 of our military service people into Poland. I mean, that's surely going to stop the Russians, don't you think, Sam Rohr?
Well, see that's the thing. Poland, Estonia, Latvia, the Baltic states are where some of the paratroopers have gone. You see, and that is not so much that they see action, as I was saying, but that is the hope that if they're there, that Russia will not do what it has not done through all of these past years of the Cold War, and that is actually shoot at an American soldier. Now, at this point, that doesn't cost this president anything, because he's banking on the fact that what hasn't happened in the past will not happen now. But whether or not there's the support to actually back it up is what you're talking about. I think it's looking from afar and saying, trust us, we'll be there, but really probably not prepared to do much.
What I'm saying, Sam, I think it's ridiculous to think that sending 150 troops into Poland is going to stop Russia. I think it's a joke. You know, hey,
well,
Sam,
I'm agreeing with you on that. They're just hoping that they don't shoot at them. That's it. But whether they can do anything, I don't think so.
Well, Sam, time for our first break. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. And, of course, around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. Sam Rohr and I will be right back.
That's my prerogative. They say I'm lefty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery. A world away, the Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. EnjoyAbaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
EnjoyAbaco.com.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811. PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Biden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. And if you'd like to hear a rebroadcast of our show at 10:10 this evening, please log on to patriotsride.org, patriotsride.org. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 5 p.m. this evening, when we end our live broadcast, log on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. That's CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And you have another opportunity to hear today's show tomorrow afternoon at VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And now you can listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. And joining me today as my co-host is Sam Rohr. And Sam, it's great to have you back with us again.
And it's great to be with you, as always, Rick.
So, Sam, what else is on your radar screen?
Well, we're going to be talking here at 3:30 with Sheriff Mack, and we're going to be talking about the Bureau of Land Management and what's really happening out there in that standoff. But as you have noted, and people have noted, that there is a potential grab to occur, although they're not saying it's going to be immediately, but it's in process, and that's down in Texas. I think it's interesting. I am very glad Texas Governor Rick Perry gave a warning to the Federal Bureau of Land Management, BLM for short, to stay out of Texas. And he's saying that, listen, he said, I'm telling you, this is not a dare, it's a promise. And we will stand up for the private property rights in the state of Texas. Now, that's going to be over a potential 90,000 acres in that piece of ground down there in that area of Texas. And obviously Texas is a big state, but 90,000 acres is a lot of ground. There's a lot of private ground. And as he said, as Perry said, the federal government is too big and, quote, they are out of control. Mm-hmm. I would agree with him. I thought, just to put it in perspective, a lot of folks may not know this. You think, how much ground does the federal government actually control? Well, in the state of Nevada, specifically, they own just shy of 57 million acres. All right, now there is only a total of 70 million acres in the entire state of Nevada, which means they own over 81% of all of the state of Nevada the federal government owns. To put that in perspective, that is more than all of the acreages combined in all of New England. Altogether, the federal government owns and manages between 635 and 640 million acres in the United States. That is just shy of 30% of all the land acreage in the United States the federal government controls, Rick. Under this ground is massive amounts of minerals, oil, gold, silver, all kinds of things. They've bottled it up. They own it. They don't, can the federal government own anything? Mm-hmm. People own it, but they control it, mm-hmm. and they tell people what to do, and that is, this is what's really at stake. So when Rick Perry says they own enough and they're not going to get any more, I think he's on pretty safe ground. Don't you?
I do too. In fact, Sam, there's a little bit of difference between what's going on in Nevada and what could possibly happen in Texas. The land that is in dispute in Nevada is federally owned land, but the land that's possibly going to be in dispute along the Texas-Oklahoma border is privately owned. People own deeds to that land.
Well, see,
so
that's,
there's a huge...
Even in Nevada, a lot of that ground was at one point private too, but it was claimed a long time ago.
Well, it was claimed when Nevada became a state during the Civil War. It did not have enough population to officially become a state. So there was a deal made. The federal government made a deal that they confiscated, as you say, 81% of the land, but there was a need to make Nevada a state at the time, and got this from Sharon Engel, who lives out there, that the federal government wanted the silver to finance the Civil War. So there was a rush, there was a need to bring it into the Union. So again, to make up for the lack of population, federal government says, well, we'll just take 81% of the land.
And see, that's a significant thing, Rick, because ownership of property is collateral. It's not just the fact that you can say, I own 1 million acres. It's the fact that 1 million acres is worth something to somebody. And from the standpoint of the federal government, property of that type with resources underneath actually becomes collateral. And we don't have time to get into this program, but the value of that kind of land has, in fact, in the past been factored into collateral assurances when borrowing money from other countries, including China, some years ago. So don't let anybody miss the connection between why the federal government wants to maintain control of property. It's that it is collateral, and they're using it in part to finance overspending when we have to borrow from other people who say, what do we have in exchange? They say, we have some collateral ground. So there's a lot involved in here, even more than just private property rights. It's a lot more.
Well, I like to say, Sam, this debt that we owe the Chinese, and you're making a very valid argument that land is collateral. I would like to give the Chinese the states of California, Oregon, and Washington to pay off the debt.
Well,
has nothing to do, Sam. It has nothing to do with the fact that they're left-wing wackos out there. But hey, those people out there want to live in socialist, communist countries. Let them live in China. Let the West Coast become part of China to pay off her debt.
Well, I tell you, I don't want to consider such a thing, but but those have been parts of discussion. That has been a matter of point in the past. We need to keep these things in perspective. There's a lot more at stake here than just a few cattle. There is another larger issue. And when Harry Reid says Americans can't break the law without paying the price for it, this battle's not over, understand that there's more to it than just what we see on the
And speaking to Sharon Engel about this issue, Harry Reid's son works for a Chinese company that wants to develop a solar farm. Now, where they want to develop this solar farm is there's this turtle out there called the desert tortoise. They want the land that this desert tortoise occupies. So the idea is to remove the desert tortoise from the land the Chinese went and put it on the land that Bundy owns down there. So there's some speculation about that, Sam Rohr.
Oh, brother Rick Trader. Well, I tell you, we don't have far enough to go down that road, but we can pick that up later. That's a good one to go.
Yeah. So again, this is what I'm picking up from Sharon Engel. So I believe Sharon, and Sharon's been pretty right about the Bundy thing all along. So hey, where there's smoke, there's fire, Sam.
There is.
And always follow the money trail.
Follow the trail.
Hey, Sam, we're going to take a break. We're up against our next break. And you are listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader, and we're coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time, and around the world on the internet. And don't forget, you can now listen to the Conservative Commandos radio show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. There's no extra charge for this call. You can call this number from any telephone, and if you use your cell phone, you have unlimited minutes. There you go. It doesn't cost you a thing. Don't go away. Sam and I will be right back with Sheriff Richard Mack.
Leader in production systems technology to be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology. It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's A-B-A-C-O. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And this is the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader. And a program note, if you'd like to hear a repeat broadcast of today's show at 10:10 this evening Eastern Time, please log on to patriotsride.org. And for a rebroadcast of yesterday's show at 5 p.m. this evening Eastern, when we end our live broadcast, please log on to cprworldwidemedia.com. And you can also hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at vigilantlibertyradio.us. And don't forget, check out our websites, conservativecommandosradioshow.com and ccrshow.com. Hey, Sam Rohr, we do have our first guest with us today. Will you please make the introduction?
Yeah, Rick, glad to do that. And we're glad to welcome to the program here for the first time Richard Mack, known generally as Sheriff Richard Mack. He boasts a distinguished law enforcement career, 11 years with the Provo, Utah Police Department, Sheriff of Graham County, Arizona, graduate of FBI National Academy, NRA Law Enforcement Officer of the Year, and NRA Hall of Fame member. He's run twice for Congress in Arizona, and he's been leading the effort to educate the public on the importance of sheriffs as the leading defender of the people's constitutional rights. He's the author also of several books, including The County Sheriff, America's Last Hope, and The Proper Role of Law Enforcement, among others. In addition, he's a friend and a true patriot with whom I've been able to stand on many times when I was in the General Assembly in Pennsylvania. Sheriff Mack, thanks for being with us today on the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
Well, Sam, it's good to be back with you. Thanks. And Rick, it's a pleasure to meet you.
Great to have you with us, Sheriff.
Sheriff, I want to get right into some things here. We don't have a lot of time, but we want to cover a few issues here in particular. But I want to take us out to the Bundy family standoff. I believe that you were there during the height of the incident, if not before. I want you to tell us just a little bit about that. But some folks have said that even some conservative folks have not wanted to come along in the defense of Rancher Bundy because they say he's really asked for trouble because he's refused to pay pasture rent to the federal government. Then you got other guys like Harry Reid insisting that all of those who were there are lawbreakers and that no one can break the law and get away with it, which is interesting for Harry Reid to talk about that. Yeah. You know what the regular press is reporting, but please take just a few minutes and put this incident in perspective. I won't go any further than that. Put it in perspective for us, if you could.
All right. Well, yes, I did go there. I went with my son and a friend who is a lawyer here in the Arizona area, and her father, who is a retired police officer. And we went together. It was about a 6-hour drive from the Phoenix area to Bunkerville, Nevada. We got stuck on the freeway. It was stop-and-go traffic because of all the emergency vehicles that were at the exit to the Bundy Ranch. That was exit 112 off of I-15. And that's a trip I've made lots because it's the trip that we'd go between Utah and Arizona when we used to live in Utah. And I still have children that live in Utah, even though I live in the Phoenix area now. Mm-hmm. So we were stop-and-go traffic, and one of our CSPOA, that's Constitutional Sheriffs and Peace Officers Association, of which I am the founder, one of our members was already there the day before, and he called me and he said, Sheriff, these guys are going to shoot us. And he says, I know when people are serious about shooting. He'd been in law enforcement 15 years. He knew he'd been in the military. he knows what he's talking about. So I said, no, wait till we get there. Whatever you do, wait till we get there. I'm going to stop it. I can stop it. And he says, Sheriff, there's no stopping this. We've already announced that we're going. The crowd is here. We're marching up there. They first threatened to arrest us, and now they're threatening to kill us. They have all the military weaponry aimed at us. They've told us they're going to shoot us, and he says they're going to. He said, I just called you. If you would please just tell my wife that I love her. This guy is a straight shooter, and I was scared to death. And so we decided inside my truck that we would put on our emergency flashers and get to the right side of the road on the shoulder and go out there. There was a few highway patrolmen who had already done that. They were going code 3, lights and siren, out to the Bundy Ranch. So we thought things were just falling apart because we had never heard any reports about highway patrol or local police being there at all. And so it was all falling apart as we're stuck on the freeway. And so I did it. I went to the right side of the road, broke the law, just went for it. And we got there in about 15, 20 minutes after that, and Stuart Rhodes from Oath Keepers was there, and he and I drove together with my son and the 2 other people with us. We went into the area, and it had all stopped. Everything was quiet. Nobody had been shot. And we go, what happened? Nobody really knew. Some people thought that the sheriff, after he finally got off his rear end, after saying for days and days that he had no authority to interfere, he actually did come there, and some said that he kind of brokered a deal with BLM to get him to leave. Others just said that because there were women along with their men up at the front of this crowd, that the shooters decided to stop. That was speculation, that they decided to stand down. And yes, if they had fired, there's no question that women would have been shot. Along with the men.
Do you think that really they were prepared to follow through with that, or was that just a idle threat?
Well, usually when people are pointing guns at you and they say they're going to kill you, you can only surmise one thing, because I was always trained, you don't point a gun at anybody unless you intend to use it.
Oh, that's true.
And the military certainly have had that training, and I was certainly trained that way throughout my career. And then after we left, and I'm going to go back to what happened right after this, when we were driving away from this scene, and we were there about at the scene about 3 hours, and we were trying to get the crowd back. There was about 600-700 people there, and there are now that crowd, the one that our CSPOA law enforcement officer was with, they were going there to free the cows, and that's why they were threatened to be killed. And that crowd now was coming back to where we were standing next to the overpass underneath the I-15 freeway, and this was kind of a ravine area, a very desert area, and very dry area. And after we left there, I was riding in the back of a four-wheel drive pickup with the reporter from Fox News, and I said, "You were there with them, right?" And he goes, "Yes." When we're going to go free the cows, and he said, "Yes, I was there." And I said, "Did you really fear for your life?" And he said, "No question about it." He said, "I believed I was a dead man." And so that was the second report about that. And then some of the other women and others that were there had told me that they felt the same way, that they weren't kidding, and they certainly had the weaponry to take them out really quickly. And so that happened, and then right after that, we went back to the staging area where you've seen on the news where the press conferences were held. Mm-hmm. But then, after the cows were released, that's when the 60 or so cowboys showed up, and that might be a little bit of a misreport also, because about 10% of those cowboys were cowgirls, and these people knew what they were doing. They were obviously very trained in working on a ranch and running cattle and herding cattle. And so they had asked me to get the crowd back. Yes, sir.
Sheriff, hold on right there. We're going to have to go cut for a break. I want you to finish that, and then I want to come back. I want to talk about what's potentially going to happen in Texas with some ground and Governor Perry's comment to the federal government. I want to pick up on that when we come back, if you can. So, folks, you're listening to the Conservative Commander Radio Show. This is Sam Rohr and Rick Trader, and our guest today is Sheriff Richard Mack, who are talking about the stand down in Nevada with the Bundys, and we're going to come back and pick up with more of some of the live reporting in just a minute.
Everybody's talking all this stuff about me now. Just let me live. Permission, make my own decisions. That's my prerogative. They say I'm crazy. I really don't care. That's my prerogative. They say I'm nasty, but oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sam Rohr and yours truly, Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360 in Philadelphia, our flagship station. And don't forget, you can listen to a rebroadcast of our show tonight at 10:10 p.m. at patriotsride.org. That's patriotsride.org. And at 5 p.m., when we end our live broadcast, you can hear a rebroadcast of yesterday's show by logging on to CPRWorldwideMedia.com. And you can also hear a rebroadcast of today's show tomorrow afternoon at VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And joining Sam and I this afternoon as our first guest is Sheriff Richard Mack. Sheriff Mack, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you. I know we're kind of pressed for time, so you want me to just continue with that? I will real quick.
Well, one thought I have a couple of questions for you. Sheriff Mack, when you were out there and in your mind you were sure that shots were going to be fired.
Oh, totally.
Did Ruby Ridge or Waco come into your mind?
Oh, throughout this entire decision to go there, that's the rallying cry. It was almost like remember the Alamo, but people were saying remember Waco and Ruby Ridge, and we weren't going to watch as the government started slaughtering innocent people again, and so we didn't, and that was the motivation for most of the people who showed up all across the country. including public officials, and we had about 12 public officials from Arizona go to Bunkerville.
Wow. Hey, Sheriff Mack, when all this was happening, when all the rushing and sirens and lights was going on, afterwards, when nothing really happened, did you maybe think that this was a bluff to see how the crowd would react?
No, I didn't. I think that the crowd, so many people that did show up, shone the light of day on this, or shed the light of day on this so much that they were afraid that there was just no way they could get away with anything with so many people there. The media was all over the place. People with their own cameras and cell phones and recording devices were all over the place. And I think somebody decided to pull back. I don't know who made the decision, and I don't know why they made the decision. But when I saw those highway patrol officers going code 3 to the scene, I thought that means the shooting has happened, because those people were not involved. The state officers and the county deputies were not involved at all until that morning. And right there, we saw them responding. And I go, well, my CSPOA guy just called and said they're going to get shot. And now I see these highway patrolmen going there, code 3. So I thought, well, that's it. The shooting has happened.
Sam, before we go back to Sheriff Mack, one follow-up question I have. Did you or anyone that you know had an opportunity to speak with those responders and ask them why they were called to the scene?
Yeah, we knew they were there as backup. They were trying to, first of all, they were assigned to crowd control, and some of them also had heard that there was going to be shooting, and I think I don't know this for sure, I didn't ask this question, but the rumor that the shooting had occurred had gone out, and so I don't know if it was reported to the highway patrol or not. But man, they were busting a gut to get there.
Wow.
Sheriff, I want to just picking up on what Rick was talking to you about there. In a case like that, where the whole country is watching, you have different levels of jurisdiction. You have the BLM, and you can tell me who all else was there from the federal government. Who was calling the shots? Who had the guns? Who were doing that? But then you have state, and then you have local, and then was there a sheriff involved? How many? Who was calling the shots in something like that? I mean, the sheriff. How was that actually working itself out?
You already know the sheriff should have been calling the shots, but he was a no-show until that morning, and he kept telling everybody that would call his office, and he would refer him to the BLM. BLM's in charge. They're doing it. I don't have the authority to interfere, which means he's telling his constituents and Americans, I don't have the authority to keep my oath of office. I don't have the authority to keep the peace, which is just absolute a lie. It's a lie. It's wrong. And so the people calling the shots as far as the violence was concerned and getting the army in there and paid mercenaries in there, we don't know. We don't know who was calling the shot. The Cornsey guy that used to work for Harry Reid, 35 years old, and he's in charge of the BLM. You would have thought that maybe he was the one calling it. We don't know. They've never said anything, and they're keeping a closed mouth now. And there's been all sorts of people who said, I know the people that were there. I know what mercenaries are. I used to be one myself. I talked to people like that at the scene. And he said, those guys are hired mercs. And I've never heard that term before. I don't know what a hired merc is. I said, what's a merc? And he goes, that's a mercenary. And so I said, you mean like for Blackwater or something like that? He goes, yes, these guys are hired from a private company. They're there as hired hitman. And so he says, if they get the order to shoot, they'll shoot no matter what, because they know that they won't be held responsible. It'll be whoever hired them, kind of the Nuremberg thing. And
well, so, I mean, is this whole thing being pursued? I mean, I think that's obviously an extraordinarily significant
We
component.
want the federal government
You're telling me
to tell
that's
us
what was happening on the ground there.
Yeah, we want that, Sam. We want them to tell us who was there, how many were there, what did you pay, how much did you pay them. We already have the documentation that the federal government BLM paid a cowboy team in Utah $966,000, almost $1 million, supposedly, that Bundy's owe in the first place. And so they paid them $1 million. Now, how about the overtime and all the equipment and the gas and the paid mercenaries and all the other personnel that they paid? You're probably looking at $3 million, maybe even more. of an operation to go collect a debt. To collect a debt. Not to get a lawbreaker, but to collect a debt. And that's how ridiculous this is. And I'm going to tell you, I've looked at this thing from every angle. I know people who have been in this battle before, like the Wayne Hage family. They have a court president that is on their side. They beat the BLM on these exact same issues, and the court actually reprimanded the BLM, charged the BLM with contempt, said the BLM and the Forest Service had committed the crime of conspiracy against the Hage family. This is all documented. I have it all right here. Anybody can see it. It's all over the internet. And the judge, trial judge, District Court Judge Jones, said that the actions of the federal government offended the conscience of the court, and that he was stunned by the illegal tactics used by the federal government to get the Hage family off their ranch and to confiscate their cows. And at that time, Sheriff Tony DeMeo refused to allow the BLM to confiscate the cattle. And they said, well, we're going to come back with our SWAT team. And Tony DeMeo, the sheriff of Nye County, said, we have one too. And he stood strong, and he protected this family's business, and thus the Hage family won, and their cattle were not confiscated. This is happening all over the country. This has happened in Nevada lots of times. The Bundy family is the last rancher out of 53 from the Clark County area. All the others are gone, run out of business. The Dan sisters, who are Native American, Indian, and all of them have been run out. The BLM doesn't care what race you are, who you are, how long you've been there. They don't care. They're running everybody out of business.
Sheriff, we have just a couple of minutes left. What is the lesson to be learned here? If there's a lesson for the American people watching, a lesson for local law enforcement, Sheriff, what's the lesson to be learned here?
The lesson to be learned here is you better have a local sheriff that knows and understands his authority to make sure that you're protected from this type of an incident occurring in your county. That's why the governor should be involved in this too, and that's why I'm liking what I'm hearing from Texas, that they're not going to allow that with the theft of the 90,000 acres there along the Red River. And this is a time where people have got to get with their sheriffs. Join us at cspoa.org. That's exactly what we're doing. We're raising sheriffs in this country who will know how to handle this type of situation, enforce the Constitution, enforce the Bill of Rights, and stand for freedom.
And I think what you're saying there is the point I want to make here in the last minute is this. You referenced it earlier. When the local sheriff there did not stand up and say, you will not come to this area and make an issue, right, it basically is almost, I would say, an invitation for aggressors to come. If you have a position of authority, like the sheriffs, and you fail to use it, it invites aggression. If they use it, it deters it, and that's really what you're saying. The local sheriff is the one with authority.
If you want to keep this revolution for freedom in America today peaceful, you have to have the local officials, especially your sheriff, on board the freedom train.
Give again the reference for people to go for the sheriff.
Yes,
information.
All of you can become members, everybody, but to get involved with us no matter what you do. CSPOA.org stands for Constitutional Sheriffs Peace Officers Association. CSPOA.org.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Sheriff Mack. I certainly appreciate you being with us today with Rick Trader and I on the Conservative Commando Radio Show. Thank you for your leadership now and in the past, and going forward in the future. You are putting forward a constitutional option, not an option, a recipe, and we thank you for taking that lead. Thank you for your comments and your input today on the program.
All right. Thanks, Sam. We'll see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Sam, when Sheriff Mack was
covered a lot of ground there.
We sure did. When Sheriff Mack was talking about the Red River, my thought is, where's John Wayne when we need him, Sam Rohrer?
Well, he's gone, but hopefully there'll be some other ones stand up, and I think Sheriff Mack is, in fact, one of them. He's a good, trustworthy guy. He's provided good leadership, and that was good input here today. I appreciate that. Absolutely. It was a great interview with him, Sam. Well, Sam, we're about 30 seconds from our break, so I guess we could take it now, get into it a little bit earlier.
So you're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader, coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, where we come to you live Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. And, of course, around the world on the Internet via our Internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. And don't forget, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Don't go away. Sam and I will be right back.
They say I'm nasty, but What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Carson of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. JD is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations, Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to MinierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Minier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Minier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back, everybody. Welcome back, fellow patriots. Welcome back once again to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, and of course around the world on the internet. And a reminder, you can now hear our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. There's no extra charge for this call. If you call using your cell phone, you have unlimited minutes. Doesn't cost you a dime. And Sam, we're reaching out to our next guest, Hans von Spakovsky. And Sam, after we ended our interview with Sheriff Mack, I thought of how Harry Reid, who is the president of the United States Senate, is calling those people that are defending the Bundy Ranch terrorists, but yet Harry Reid and Barack Obama and the Democrat Party refused to call that Major Hassan, the man that killed 30 people at Fort Hood, Texas, how they refused to call him a terrorist, but yet they'll call U.S. citizens terrorists for protecting a man's property.
Rick, that's a very, 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 very sad point that you have to mention, but I think it's very, very critical, and I'm glad that you did. Once government, and again, this is sad to say, but once those are in a position, Rick, in our representative republic, who we talked in the first quarter hour about those who take an oath to support the Constitution and the constitutional protections that are given to you and to me and to every person in this country, when that promise, when that oath is rejected, spurned, forgotten, whatever you want to say, you turn the rule of law into the rule of a few special interests, those who happen to have the power at the moment to exercise their will. And what happens is that the law gets turned on its head, and the innocent become the guilty, and the guilty can become the innocent depending upon who's interpreting the law. See, this is what you're talking about, when those who are there can take and turn completely upside down, and turn a killer into a protected entity, and turn those who just simply want to maintain their freedoms and their private property and turn them into terrorists, threatening them, as we heard from Sheriff Mack, to be killed on the spot by hired guns, nonetheless. Rick, this is a different day, and the American people must wake up while there is still time to peaceably, through the ballot box and through freedom of speech, like we're saying here, to be able to let it known, because things have changed, and we've got to work terribly hard at keeping in place what's here, Rick, because you just nailed it right on the head.
Sam, do you remember the Tiananmen Square events in China during the 1980s?
Sure do. I think everybody who was old enough to remember that
right
day.
And I never thought that people would fire on their own, but they did there. And I thought, my gosh, this would never happen in our country, but it surely did at Ruby Ridge and at Waco. And I think it's what it happens when you get government that just tries to grab, take, and hold so much power, it goes to their head, and they lose their senses. And this is my concerns here.
Well, we've talked about this somewhat before, but it's not just those who want to consolidate power, Rick Trader.
Yeah.
It's the fact of those when they say that there is no any longer any such thing as absolute truth. There is no God. There's no morally right or morally wrong. You basically can. When that happens, you have a dictatorship. You have a consolidated government. You have the rule of a few who happen to have the power behind them. I think there was something that Sheriff Mack mentioned, which again we didn't talk too long on. But when he's chatting there and he's talking about those who were carrying the weapons on the ground were actually hired mercs. They were mercenaries. They're the same kind of folks, Rick Trader, that are on the ground in Ukraine right now, on both sides. They're in order to avoid what would appear to have a uniformed military, which you can't deny who they're for. I mean, the Russians sent in people who didn't have markings on their uniforms. They went incognito, but so did the Western government. They sent in the hired guns to get in there and do work on the ground. And see, those folks, when you're a hired gun, you don't have a concern for life as a soldier would. You're not being concerned about the Constitution. You're there on doing a job just like a hired killer. That is something that must come to further attention if that in fact is what is happening. That is how you can have a situation where American citizens can be fired on. They're people who are hired guns. This is a very, very dangerous circumstance.
Hey, Sam, we're going to take a little break. We're still trying to get a hold of our next guest, Hans von Spakovsky, and to save a little time, we're going to go to a break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos. Oh, Fred, is he there with us? All right, you know what, Sam? We're not going to go to a break because we do have our next guest with us, I do think. And we just lost our next guest.
Yeah, we got Hans.
Oh, Hans. Oh, okay. We do have Hans von Spakovsky. We lost Sam Rohrer. Hans, are you there?
I'm here, yes, I am.
All right, and I'd like to introduce to our audience Hans von Spakovsky. He's an authority on a wide range of issues, including civil rights, civil justice, and the First Amendment, immigration, and the rule of law and government reform. Hans, welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show. It's great to have you with us again.
Well, I appreciate you inviting me back.
And great to always have you with us. And Hans, we're joined on the other line by my co-host, Sam Rohrer. And Sam, we do have Hans with us. I have made the introduction. Will you please pick up the interview?
I'll be glad to do that. Thanks for filling in, Rick. You know, sometimes no matter what you do, technical problems come in the way. So, Hans, great to have you with us here today.
Well, I said I appreciate getting invited back. I must not have done too bad last time, right?
No, I don't think you did a good job. We want to zero right in here, Hans, on the circumstance, obviously with the Supreme Court ruling. But you know, I would say most constitutionally minded Americans know that we've not seen very many positive Supreme Court rulings of late. When it comes particularly to state-initiated constitutional amendments. They've overturned more than they have upheld. But the recent Michigan ruling regarding affirmative action was upheld, upholding the right of Michigan voters to mandate equality under the law and to ban unjust discrimination. Tell our listeners about the core essence of this decision and kind of like where do we go from here? What's it mean?
Well, you know, what happened in Michigan was that in 2006, Michigan voters overwhelmingly approved a ballot referendum to amend their state constitution. And they amended it so that it said that state and local government could not discriminate either in favor of anyone or against anyone when it came to public education, contracting, and employment. And frankly, they passed that referendum in reaction to a prior Supreme Court case. You may recall back in 2003, when Justice O'Connor was still on the court, the court upheld the University of Michigan School of Law using race as a factor in their college admission. So in other words, they were given a benefit if you were a member of a particular race. And Michigan voters didn't like that, so they banned the University of Michigan from doing that. And a group called By Any Means Necessary went to court, sued, and said, well, if you ban discrimination and racial preferences, you're violating equal protection. And to its everlasting discredit, the Sixth Circuit Court of Appeals actually issued a very bizarre legal opinion saying that if you require equal protection under the law, you're violating equal protection.
That was it. Now, in the case of this one here, because of what was done, Hans, I mean, I think one of the dissenting justices made some kind of comment that this turns back the clock now. And in my words, says greases the skids for a return to race-based discrimination, I think someone said. In your opinion, does this court decision open up the door for that kind of a charge, or is this going to be just viewed as a silo decision without having much of an impact on other things?
Well, that claim was a totally bogus claim. It was made by Justice Sotomayor, who, as you know, is the latest addition to the court by President Obama. And she was so angry at the majority's opinion that she read her dissent from the bench, which is very unusual. And, I mean, her claim, really, it's just not credible because, look, what Michigan voters said was there shall be no racial discrimination. Now, how in the world can anyone say that that's going to bring back racial discrimination? What Sotomayor really was complaining about is that the government is no longer going to be able to engage in actual discrimination because that's what racial preferences are. I'm sure you realize, in college admissions, what's happening in many places around the country, especially the elite Ivy League schools in the Northeast, is that if you're black or Hispanic, you can get in with worse qualifications than other students, whereas if you're white or if you're Asian, you're going to have much higher qualifications to get into the same school. That kind of discrimination, the majority of Americans, they say that's wrong.
Well, and I think most do. In fact, in your opinion here, as we go forward, do you think that this court ruling will be construed as being very specifically, narrowly interpreted as relating to the issue of affirmative action, or do you think there's something within this ruling that actually can be taken and more broadly applied to similar type things?
Well, look, what the court said was that universities and state governments, they can engage in affirmative action. They can engage in racial preferences if they want to. But what the court said in this decision is that if a state wants to ban that, it can. And this makes that constitutionally possible. So that means that states all over the country who want to ban racial discrimination of any kind, including racial preferences, they now can do that full speed ahead, and they're not going to have to fight litigation saying it's unconstitutional. 5 other states besides Michigan have already done this.
Okay, so really, as you're saying as well, they're upholding the right of the people, citizens of various states, to through constitutional actions, amendment, take and do specific defining or limiting, and in this case, in the case of affirmative action. Now, to me, yes, I think that is significant. To me, that seems the way it ought to be. But let me ask you this question: it's kind of odd in some respects that the same court that's making this determination right now, not too recently, denied certain states like California, in other, through their constitutional amendment process, to define marriage as an example of what they wanted. Now, and I know there are legal, creative descriptions for doing what they said and all that kind of business. But at the end of the day, is it not about the right of the people through a constitutional amendment to define whatever it is they want to define? What's the difference here?
Well, the prior decision, it was the Windsor decision, I think has been wildly misconstrued. I mean, I think part of the problem in that case was that they really didn't get to the main issue in that case over California's Proposition 8 because, they ruled there that the people that had brought the lawsuit didn't have standing to make their claims, and that's because the state attorney general had refused to defend the California law. Now, the other thing that they did say was that the federal government, when it comes to benefits and things like that, does have to recognize same-sex marriage if it's recognized in a particular state. The Obama administration, of course, has carried that far beyond what the court has said. But I believe all the district courts, the federal district courts around the country who are construing what the Supreme Court said to throw out state same-sex marriage laws are making a very big mistake, and I don't think they're actually following what the Supreme Court said.
All right, let me go ahead and go another step on here. Justice Breyer commented that the Supreme Court in this decision opened the pathway for the people to stop state and local government from treating citizens differently based on their race. I think that's pretty much exactly what he said. Why do you think that Justice Breyer said it opened the door for people to stop state and local government from unequal treatment, and he didn't include within that stopping the federal government from doing the same thing? Was that intentional or what?
Well, no. I think it's just because the only issue in the case was what the state governments had done. Look, Congress could tomorrow, if they had the votes to do it, they could get rid of all of the unfortunate racial preferences that there are in hundreds of government programs. In fact, I just wrote a paper for the Heritage Foundation recommending that they do exactly that. But I mean, politically, as you know, that just isn't going to happen. Even if Congress could pass it, this particular president would immediately veto it because he believes in discriminating and having some groups get benefits and other groups not based on their race.
Yeah, he certainly does. Rick Crater, you're listening here. You want to get in on this too as well. What kind of thoughts do you have on this?
Yeah, Hans, again, thanks for coming on the show today. And we always enjoy having you on. That's why we invite you on as much as we do. The fact that it was a 6-2 ruling, does that say something to you? Is that a little bit surprising to you?
It is a little bit surprising, but I actually laughed a little bit when I saw that because you have to realize that has really infuriated the left and progressives. The fact that Justice Breyer, who is one of the most liberal Supreme Court justices that we have, actually joined with the majority and said, no, of course, the residents and voters of a state have a right to decide how to handle this. I'm sure it just infuriated the editorial board of the New York Times and other newspapers. But that is really good because no one can say, oh, this was just another 5-4 decision by those terrible conservatives because, Justice Breyer joined in it.
Hans, also, a few months back there was also a ruling that affected voting laws in the South. That was kind of a race-based ruling. And do you see that decision and this decision as maybe the start of the end of affirmative action?
I'm hopeful that is correct, yes. And as I said, a number of other states have already passed similar provisions to what Michigan did, and I'm actually hoping that becomes a trend throughout the country, and this Supreme Court decision will help that. And the prior Supreme Court decision that you're talking about with regard to voting rights, it was also a good result, one that hopefully, for example, will stop the kind of what I really think is disgusting racial gerrymandering that goes on in congressional districts all across the country, which I do not think is a good thing.
Hans, this morning there was an article in a local newspaper how a white teacher was suing a school board locally because he was promised by a superintendent that he was going to be recommended to get a job and that the school board always follows his recommendations. But when it came to the Board of Education meeting, there was a group of people who got up prior to the vote on he actually being hired by the Board of Education, saying that enough was not being done to hire minorities. And by the time they came to voting on this person who was a white man, several other minorities were hired, but he didn't get the job that he was promised by the superintendent. So I set this up to ask this question. Can this ruling be stretched out? Does this ruling only affect schools in their admission practices? Will this ruling possibly open up a door to to looking at race and sex-based hirings? And will this ruling empower other bodies to look at the idea that the best person qualified either get the job or get the position in school?
Oh, it certainly does. But people should understand that, look, federal discrimination laws are race neutral. They prohibit discrimination on the basis of race against anyone. It doesn't matter whether they're black, white, Hispanic, or Asian. It's just that some courts have kind of twisted them to only allow suits in a particular kind of discrimination. But look, it wasn't too long ago that the U.S. Supreme Court issued a great decision. You may remember this. It was called the Ritchie decision, and it involved firefighters in New Haven, Connecticut, who had not been given a promotion because not enough black firefighters had passed a particular exam. And the Supreme Court said, you cannot do that. You can't engage in that kind of discrimination, whether the beneficiaries, the beneficiaries may be black, but the fact that you're discriminating against others, whites, Hispanics, etc., you can't do that. So that particular school board that you're talking about, there's a potential there for a federal lawsuit against it.
Well, one phrase that I hate to use, Hans, is yes, but I got to use it here. Yes, but in the last 30, 40 years, since race and sex has been used as a measure to hire people more than the best person to get the job, it seems to me, from my observations, that females and minorities are the ones that have benefited from these types of laws 99% more than a white, heterosexual, middle-aged male guy like me.
Well, that is certainly true. And I can tell you that when it comes, for example, to the United States Justice Department under Eric Holder, they would never file a lawsuit on behalf of someone like you who's been discriminated against. I can tell you, though, that when I was there during the Bush administration, we actually filed a lawsuit against a university in Illinois that was providing graduate scholarships, and they specified that if you were white, you were not entitled to even apply for it. And I can tell you, we filed suit, we were successful, but we underwent the severest criticism you can possibly imagine from the civil rights community because we had asserted a claim like that.
Hans, we're going to have to take off here in just a minute, but I want, before you go, and thanks for all your answers, I want you just to give just a quick update on your book. You referenced it, Eric Holder's Justice Department, Obama's enforcer. Anything about that, and then tell people where to go in order to follow what you're writing.
Sure, it's coming out June 10th. It's by HarperCollins, one of their subsidiaries, Broadside Books, and out June 10th, and it's a look at how Eric Holder has been running the Justice Department for the past 6 years. And I can tell you, it's not a very nice picture.
Well, I can tell you that too. I know here from being in the Pennsylvania legislature, a major suit was, issue brought before him of voting violations in Philadelphia. He refused to hear. Probably would have been the best ones to hear. He refused, and he refused again. But I think it's important you put down Obama's enforcer. Without the help of the Justice Department, this administration can do about whatever they want to do, can't they?
Yeah, they sure can.
That's right. All right, Hans Van Spaskowski, thanks for being with us today on the Conservative Command Radio Show. We do appreciate it, and we will have you back. You can be sure of it.
Terrific. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much.
All right, we are going to take a break right now. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos Radio Show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader coming to you live from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. and around the world on the internet. Check out our internet broadcast partners, CPRWorldwideMedia.com, PatriotsRide.org, and VigilantLibertyRadio.us. Check out our websites, too. Don't go away. We'll be right back.
What does it take to be the leader in production systems technology? To be the one company that solves production problems at any plant, for any product, and with any technology? It takes a 30-year record of success. It takes total mastery of complex technologies with a history of delivering success every time, without fail. Only one company can claim that high ground in manufacturing line optimization, data automation, and systems integration, and that's Philadelphia Control Systems. In factories worldwide, Philadelphia Control Systems programs, software, and engineering solutions deliver optimal performance and output flow with a record that can't be matched. Any plant, any product, any technology. Philadelphia Control Systems, the leader in production automation since 1982. 800-335-9811, PCS4automation.com. That's PCS, the number 4, automation.com.
Oh, how I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Vide, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glasper, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittlesportshop.com.
Hello, I'm Reverend Carl Kelly, and I head up the Frederick Douglass Foundation of Indiana. President Obama's attacks on the Constitution continues to be aided and abetted by one of his trusted allies in Congress, ultra-liberal Democrat Andre Caution of Indianapolis, nationally known for his infamous racial rants against the Tea Party. I want to tell you about J.D. Manier. J.D. will be a representative for the people of the 7th District. J.D. Manier is a pro-growth Reagan conservative and is co-host of the Conservative Commandos Radio Show. He is asking you to join his army of supporters in order to defeat Carson and go to Washington to demand special prosecutors for Benghazi, the IRS, and other scandals. J.D. is interested in what's good for the people of the 7th District, not Nancy Pelosi. He will promote strong economic growth and jobs by getting the government off the backs of the people, voting for tax cuts and slashing regulations. Help elect a pro-life defender of freedom who will strongly support Israel, vote to cut wasteful spending, and battle to repeal Obama's socialist agenda. Log on to ManierForCongress.com and donate today. That's MINIEAR for Congress.com. Paid for and authorized by the J.D. Manier for Congress Committee.
I'm J.D. Manier, candidate for the U.S. House of Representatives, Indiana District 7, and I approve of this message.
You can call the Conservative Commandos Radio Show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And you are listening to the Conservative Command Radio Show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader, and our guest for our final half hour here is Peter Ferrara, Carlson Center for Public Policy Senior Fellow, graduate of Harvard College, magna cum laude. He is a member of the District of Columbia U.S. Supreme Court Bars, served as senior staff member in the White House Office of Policy Development from 81 to 83, and a number of other things, an author and a publisher of a number of articles and in books. So, Peter, we are glad to welcome you back today to the Conservative Commander Radio Show with Rick and I, and we're anxious to get right into some good information here.
Glad to be here.
We're going to look at an issue that we were just talking the last quarter hour about some unconstitutional things that are happening, and this is going to be the issue here. American citizens, Peter, around this nation have been subjected, in my opinion, to increasing rounds of constitutional violations by the federal government in particular, along a whole range of issues. Now, the recent lawsuit filed by Representative Trent Frank, and Senator Ron Johnson specifically challenges the action of the Obama administration to alter congressional law under Obamacare law by his executive orders, which I think was about 14 sometimes. Tell our listeners, if you could, about this suit and the amicus brief filed by the American Civil Rights Union. And I'd like to know from you whether or not you think this suit and this action is substantive, or is it just a diversion with really no real hope of anything to happen out of it?
The lawsuit is named Johnson versus OPM, Office of Personnel Management. That's Senator Ron Johnson as the lead plaintiff from Wisconsin, Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. And there, in fact, were 37 unilateral changes to the Obamacare law by President Obama. This is a gross violation of the Constitution. The Constitution says that Congress has the power to legislate, and the president's responsibility is to take care that the laws be faithfully executed. That means administer the laws as they were enacted. It gives no authority to the president to rewrite a law passed by Congress. It's a completely unconstitutional action. If any other president did this, he would be immediately impeached. It's only because President Obama has this favoritism due to racial considerations. So he is pushing the limits as far as he can. Who knows how far he will take these unconstitutional actions. The message that people should take from this is that you can't directly restrain President Obama. But if you don't like your president ruling by decree, which is what he's doing here, he makes up the law and announces it at a press conference, which is more like Mussolini than like George Washington. If you don't like that as an American, then you got to go after his enablers, which are the Democrat Party. So this fall, you have congressional Democrats on the ballot. If you don't like having the President of the United States behave like Benito Mussolini, which is what Obama's doing, then you need to vote out Democrat this fall. Now, if you want a dictatorship in America, by all means, vote Democrat, because the Democrats are supporting this as a dictatorial action by President Obama, and they're covering for him. If you try to impeach Obama, they'll ram it down your throat, call you a racist. You're lucky you won't get jailed and imprisoned for suggesting it. So this is the nation we live in. It's a quasi-fascist state right now, and that's the central principle. And core
those are some very bold
right
statements there, Peter, and I don't know that I disagree with them. In the case of this lawsuit that is filed here, are there any other actions of a similar type that challenge other areas of constitutional violations, or is this the only one, and zeroing in on specifically what's been done with Obamacare? Are there other things out there, or is this basically it?
It focuses on specifically one change made to Obamacare, where the Obamacare says that members of Congress and their staffs have to live under the same rules as everybody else, under the same Obamacare rules as everybody else. Now, Obamacare says that if you buy insurance on the exchanges, you can't receive any money from your employer to help you pay for it. But what OPM said, issued a decree saying, oh no, that's okay, you can continue to use the money that the government pays for your health care as your employers, members of Congress and staff, and you can continue to use it to buy the Obamacare health policies on the Obamacare exchanges. So this is a gross violation of the law and the Constitution, because the Obamacare legislation says exactly the opposite. And so Johnson is trying to win a precedent here. Senator Johnson and his cohorts are trying to establish a precedent here focused on a very concrete violation of the law and the Constitution.
Peter, in the brief filed by American Civil Rights Union, I think as I read it correctly, it said, quote, Congress doesn't give up its designated legislative authority whenever a president decides to legislate on its own or on his own, end quote, something of that type. Now, I would agree with that, but I want to ask you this very difficult question because it's because I think it has bearing on this. Barack Obama didn't take away their authority. He's violating his, and Congress permits him to do so. Therefore, is it not, and I'm speaking from some history because I served in the legislature for a long time, but it's more often, is it not correct to say that Congress has given up its authority and actually permitting this to happen rather than just the fact that you have somebody who is willing to break his oath and to exceed his authority? This is a two-way street right here. And you telling me that all we have is just the ability to file a lawsuit? Speak on that issue, if you would.
Well, Congress has the ability to impeach President Obama under the law. They have the ability to do that, but they don't have the political support to do that. If Republicans tried to impeach Obama, they would be called racist, and MSNBC would lead a violent French Revolution-style response if they try to do that. So one response they can do is file lawsuits, which is what is being done here. Another response is to the people, which is to exercise their control over the ballot box. So what I like to say is don't blame Obama, blame the Democrat Party. They're the ones protecting Obama from the impeachment that he so richly deserves. And so, like I said before, if you don't like the President of the United States behaving like Benito Mussolini and legislating by decree and press conference from the Oval Office, then you need to vote against the Democrats this fall and for Republicans to replace them. And
but
that's
Congress,
the way
but Congress, Peter, also has the power of the purse. But we went for 5 years with no budget. So Congress has two things, impeachment, and they have the power of the purse to take and curtail, but neither one have been done. So do you think that there is the political will at all to do anything?
There's political will, but there's not political support. And so,
interesting point.
When you say the power of the purse, you're talking about funding for Obamacare?
Well, I'm talking about funding for other departments of government, or things that would specifically tie the hands of those who are running departments that would be participants in this kind of thing. Yes, those kinds of things.
Well, I mean, they can put restrictions.
So, anyways, tell you what, we're going to have to break. Peter, let's stay with us. We're going to come back after this break and pick up on that question. I think Rick Trader's got a question as well. So, folks, you're listening to Sam Rohr and Rick Trader today, and our guest right now is Peter Ferrara, and we're speaking about the current lawsuit challenging Barack Obama's unconstitutional actions to effectively make law and circumvent Congress. So, Rick, over to you.
All right, we are going to take that break. You're listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader, coming to you from the CCRS studios, that of WNJC 1360, our flagship station in Philadelphia, like we do Monday through Friday from 3 to 5 p.m. And don't forget, you can now listen to our show anytime, day or night, by calling 832-999-1199. Please don't go away. Sam and I are going to pick up our interview with Peter J. Farrar from the Carlson Center for Public Policy Research.
How I'm longing for the day when I'm back at Orchid Bay, where the silver water glistens in the sun.
When is the last time you raced a small boat across wide open water? Tired of snow, traffic jams, cold weather? You need a refreshing change of scenery, a world away. The Bahama Islands have vacation rental homes and apartments. Enjoy spectacular nature in the Abacos Islands. Enjoy refreshing Caribbean beauty, fishing, snorkeling, scuba, the beach. www.enjoyabaco.com. That's ABACO. Enjoyabaco.com.
As I sail across the sea of Abaco, smiling 'cause I know only one more mile to go.
Enjoyabaco.com.
Hi, this is Bob Viden, owner of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. I've had the opportunity to travel in many foreign countries, and I've seen what happens to people when they lose their freedom. I wrote this poem. Give us freedom was the cry as they marched throughout the night. At Concord Bridge in Trenton, for freedom they would fight. To build a nation that would last with peace and liberty, it is a job that's never done if we are to be free. They wrote a declaration to announce that we are free, then a constitution for all the world to see. But this is ink on paper. We must make it last. It must always be defended, and that is quite a task. Today the battle rages for freedom in our land. To save our Constitution, we all must take a stand. We must stand up for freedom in our actions every day, and you can stand up with us. Join the NRA. This is Bob Viden of Bob's Little Sports Shop in Glassboro, New Jersey. You may call us at area code 856-881-7575 or visit us online at bobslittle.sportshop.com.
You can call the Conservative Commandos radio show at 856-227-1360. Your opinion counts at 856-227-1360.
This is Congressman Alan West, and you're listening to the Conservative Commando Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Conservative Commandos radio show with Sam Rohr and Rick Trader. And our guest this segment is Peter Farrar. He is the Carlson Center for Public Policy. He's their senior fellow. And Peter, thanks for holding through the break. We appreciate your time.
Yes, you're welcome.
Peter, on the day of or the day after that the American Civil Rights Union put out this press release, White House rewriting of Obamacare violates constitutional separation of powers. A story is also coming out that Obama plans to give clemency to hundreds, if not thousands, of drug offenders. So once again, if Barack Obama doesn't like something, irregardless of what the law is or what the Constitution says, he's going to do it anyway.
Well, at least he has the legal right to grant clemency. And so if people don't like it, they should have made sure he was defeated for re-election, because that's the power the people gave him when they voted for him the first time and when they voted to re-elect him. And people have to understand that this is not, when you're voting for president, you're not voting for a celebrity reality show.
I agree with you on that, Peter, that he does have the right to do it. But can't this also be construed that even though he's got the right to give clemency to, could be a couple 100,000 drug offenders could be affected by this, that once again he is overriding what juries and courts and judges have said when these people were sentenced. Barack Obama, as he said, he's got a pen in his cell phone. He can do what he wants to do. When's this going to come back and bite this guy?
Well, that's up to the people. They have a chance to do that this fall. Are they going to do it or not? So if people listening to your show, if they agree with you and they're unhappy with what he's doing, you have an opportunity to make a very powerful statement on Election Day this year. So are you guys going to do that or not? Don't just go and vote yourself. You have a pen and a phone too, so call your friends and neighbors and get the like-minded ones to go to the polls with you. And so you can be your own voter turnout machine. You don't need to depend on Republican candidates or the Republican Party. You can turn out the vote. You help turn out the vote yourself. You have friends and neighbors, and you have a Rolodex and a phone and a pen, so you can act too now.
Peter, and you are correct. I mean, that clearly is something that happens every 2 years, and that I think we have not, generally as a nation, understood the importance of that, and some of these things are, in fact, coming home. So even many of those who are blind physically, not physically, but by choice almost, are finding that things are even beyond the pale. But you've got a circumstance here. Let's just talk about this a bit. You've got a circumstance that where you have someone, an administration, an individual, is willing to defy the law and do their own thing, saying, I dare you, effectively, telling Congress, if you don't do what I say, I'm going to go around you. I will use my pen through the kind of thing we're talking about. I don't need you. I'm going to go around you. When you have somebody like that, we haven't had anyone in that position for a long time. The fact of the matter is, you actually are sitting at a point where there may be nobody sitting here right now if Congress does not act within its legal capacity, even though the difficulty nature I know, that can actually make them do anything. We had a guest in the last program was talking even about Eric Holder being the enabler for the president. You have a Justice Department that is carrying the water and refusing to deal on issues and pursuing other ones that are supporting this administration. That's a rather dire thing I'm saying right now, but literally, what stops a person under our frame of government if he just says, I don't care what you do? Who's there to stop them?
Well, the Congress has certain powers, but the people have certain powers also. The judiciary has certain powers also. But there's Congress has tried to do some things, but what they really, Obama really richly deserves impeachment for violating the law, and he's going to push the envelope to establish as much of a dictatorship as he can until somebody stops him. And the voters have a chance to stop him this fall and send a message to Congress that they don't approve of what he's doing. Mm-hmm. But it's up to you. It's up to you, the voters. There are enormous problems facing this country. We never recovered from the last recession. Has anybody noticed that? Has anybody, at least 50% of the country, thinks it's really cool to trash America? Have any of you guys noticed that? Any of you guys noticed that we actually are entering danger zones where our national defenses are at risk. The Russians have announced they're going to build 3 military bases, one in Cuba, one in Venezuela, and one in Nicaragua. There's with just 3 missiles launched from 1 missile launched from each one of those 3 countries, they can basically kill most of us with just 3 missiles launched from each one of those 3 countries. Now, when President Kennedy, the last good Democrat, found the Russians were sending missiles into Cuba, he slapped a blockade on Cuba and told them that blockade's going to stay until those missiles get out. And he forced them to get it out. But what we hear from Secretary of State John Kerry is, the day of the Monroe Doctrine is over. So the Monroe Doctrine said no foreign powers can establish control in Latin America. But under this administration, it's, hey, whatever you guys want to do is fine, whatever. The president entered into this New START treaty in 2010, completely unnecessary, with Russia. And under that treaty, America has to dismantle thousands of its nuclear warheads, and Russia has to dismantle 0 in return. And the way Obama is implementing that treaty is to reduce the most secure of our nuclear deterrent. So he's mothballing submarines, which are the most survivable sources of nuclear response. He's mothballing bombers, and so he's going after the strongest components of our deterrent to eliminate those, which is within his power. But is anybody paying attention out there? Are you folks subscribing to the New York Times? Do you even know anything about this? And why are you subscribing to the New York Times? Those of you who are subscribing to the LA Times, the Washington Post, are you doing that because you just want to live in your fantasy world? I mean, what's going to happen to your fantasy world when a nuclear weapon explodes miles overhead, and all your electronics are gone, and the grocery store doesn't have any food because there's no trucks to deliver it anymore, and
I tell you, Peter, I'm going to kind of move in on you a little bit here, just because we're running out of time here at the top of the hour. But I will tell you, what you were saying ought to be packaged, and we're glad that we're able to put that forth here on the Conservative Commander Radio Show, because that's what we've been saying all along. People, what will it take to wake up? And that means every person who says you're a patriot, every person, whether you may even be a liberal. These things, when you lose your freedom, liberals lose their freedom too, not just conservatives. But you just started to go down just through a short list. You could have gone a long time. But Peter Ferrara, I want to thank you for being with us. I want to ask you, before you go, tell our listeners where they can go to watch and to follow what you are putting together, because clearly they need to be doing that.
Well, there's a website that features my work, the Carlson Center for Welfare Reform. It's at ccpp.org. I'm also work with the Heartland Institute, heartland.org, the National Center for Policy Analysis, ncpa.org. I have a column every week, at least once a week, at Forbes.com. So those are the best places to go to find my work.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Peter Ferrara, Carlson Center for Public Policy Senior Fellow. Thanks for being with us today. Keep up the good work, and we'll have you back.
All right. Thank you for having me on the show.
All right. You're welcome. All right. Well, Rick, full day.
All right, full day. Great guest, as always, Sam. And I'd like to thank our guest, Sheriff Richard Mack, Hans von Spakovsky from the Heritage Foundation, and our most recent guest, Peter J. Ferrara from the Carlson Center. A little bit difficult to get out. And I also want to thank you, Sam Rohr, for sitting in as co-host. And we got about 30 seconds, Sam. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, well, Rick, final thoughts are this. I think just what Peter said, what we said at the end, is correct. What will it take for the American people to understand that things have changed? And if they do not stand up, we will lose it all. And that goes for liberals, for conservatives, for every citizen. One citizen loses our freedom, we all will lose it. Let's stand up while we have time.
Amen, Sam Rohr. And with that, we're out of time. We got to run. We got to go. Take care. God bless. And we'll see you tomorrow on the radio.
Thank you for listening to the Conservative Commandos radio show. Huge thanks to our co-hosts, contributors, patrons, callers, and our friends at WNJC 1360 and WIFI 1460, where we broadcast live every Monday through Friday, 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern and 2 to 4 p.m. Central. Look for us on the internet at www.ccrshow.com. Until next time, we are the Conservative Commandos radio show, where the newsmakers go to be heard.